Welcome one and welcome all to the greatest show of them all, the NFC East Mixtape Volume 138. You can listen to us on any one of SB Nation's NFC East blog podcast networks. You can also watch us on the Bleeding Green Nation YouTube channel or the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel. If you do any of those things, you will see, hear, read, smell, taste, perhaps, I don't know, the stylings of myself. I'm RJ Ochoa from Blogging the Boys, still a little bit under the weather. He is Brandon Lee Gowton from Bleeding Green Nation, back from Colorado. BLG, how was your trip? Did you enjoy it?
It was a nice time, RJ, in the mountains. I was doing some hiking, drove on some mountain roads, saw some snow, which is, early for this, at least where I am in this time of year, seeing snow and whatnot. So it was a great time. Glad to be back. Happy to listen to. Obviously, I love doing the NFC East mixtape with you, but I also, once in a while, it's kind of fun to just be a listener. And I thought Brendan did a good job last week. You missed me, so you got someone with a name close to mine, but not exactly my name. So yeah, I mean, you must be really excited to have me back.
It was really fun. We got a lot of positive feedback from people getting to hear a more close to the vest perspective on the Commanders, obviously. It was a fun time, obviously, with them coming off of that close loss to Seattle, obviously, at the moment. Not so much this past week, which we'll get into. But Brendan was great. There is a Survivor crossover in terms of some of our listeners, so they definitely enjoyed him. Yeah, his season of Survivor, I was doing a little bit more research on it. Obviously, both before and after having spoken with him. Pretty interesting. I mean, not my favorite season, and some of it now is because our friend did not win it. But good for
Well,
Wendell,
my
I
other
guess.
friend did win it.
I guess. I mean, Wendell
No
is
spoiler alert.
Wendell is awesome, but as an Eagles fan, I can't sign off or advocate for this. I was trying to think about, and I meant to ask Brendan this, but we went way too long. I can only name of one Cowboys fan survivor that I know, and the person did win it. I don't know if you know who I'm talking about.
I'm not sure, but you're also not counting like the actual former Cowboys
No,
coaches
right?
or
Yeah, like obviously
players.
Danny McCray or Jimmy Johnson or things like that. No,
Allen Ball.
Alan Ball as well. No, I was thinking of Mike Holloway. Is a Cowboys fan. So,
Gotcha.
yeah. So good to have you back. We swapped out the E for the A. Brendan back to Brandon, as you mentioned. I wanted to make one last joke. You mentioned you were in Boulder. Did you steal somebody's roommate's mattress?
What's the joke here?
It's a song from the Chainsmokers.
I don't know that song.
That is a lie. It's
I
impossible
don't
that you don't know that song.
don't
That's a
know
lie.
that song.
By the way, on the subject of songs, we'll of course add ours to this week's episode of or this week's songs to the NFC's mixtape playlist. But I forgot to mention mine and Rachel's last week. Rachel added "Happy Feelings" by Maze and Frankie Beverly. I added "I Will Be," or it's an aisle. It's aisle. It's a contraction. "I'll Be There for You" by the Rembrandts. Obviously, a lot of people have friends on their mind with the passing of Matthew Perry. So a great song in and of itself, and a great theme song specifically. BLG. We have reached the week of Thanksgiving. It's a fast week for the Dallas Cowboys, a unique time, obviously, because they play on back-to-back Thursdays, which makes kind of evaluating the NFC East a little bit wonky for the next, whatever you want to call it, 13 days or so. But we have to start in divisional order, divisional standing, which would have been the same order even if the Eagles had lost on Monday Night Football, but they did not. Philadelphia won 21-17, despite, I mean, I've seen several variations of like the Chiefs had more yards, more this, more that. AJ Brown, what did he have? One catch for 8 yards or whatever it was. I mean, Jalen Hurts didn't throw a touchdown. Like I've seen all these different computations of ways to put it. But the Eagles, I've said it many times, and I think you would agree, certainly, it is so annoying how they can just survive long enough to do the one or two, sometimes it's three. I mean, but just the specific things that are necessary to win a game. And they did it again on Monday Night Football.
Well, I wish Pete Sweeney was here because the Eagles refused to lose to the Kansas City Chiefs, to the Patrick Mahomes.
It's been too long for that joke because I think there's a lot of people who don't know that.
You're
that
right.
bit.
For a
You
lot
should
of the
explain it.
audience,
Yeah.
they don't get that. But for you and me, and really, that's all that matters in this moment right now as we were recording. It's true. It's true. They've done it so many times this year. It's very cliche, it goes against analysis of, like one-score games and luck and stuff in the NFL. But I mean, I don't care how you win in Arrowhead with the Chiefs coming off their bye. Andy Reid, obviously, that's all everyone is talking about. It's like a level of the Steagles heading into this game. Oh, Andy Reid off the bye. Did you know Andy Reid's really good off the bye? Yeah,
I
it's
would
all
also
people are
add.
talking about.
I would also add now. Did you know that Andy Reid is the winningest head coach in both of these franchises' histories? So like that's up there with the same kind of stuff.
So I don't care how you get it done to go into Arrowhead like that, to be down 10 points. Like it looked like the game was going to be over. It really did. It looked like, okay, Eagles go into half down 10 points. And okay, can they get anything going early in the third quarter? No. A 3-and-out with like very uninspired play calling. And it's like, well, this is going to be the game probably. And it wasn't. And the fact that the Eagles shut out Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in their own house in the second half is just, I don't even know what to say. Like, that's incredible, especially for you. We just saw this defense against the Cowboys give up like a gazillion yards to CD and even Jake Ferguson. And yet they shut down Travis Kelce, which you have to give them a lot of credit for. And I know there were drops by the Chiefs receivers, but part of that is because they were able to make Patrick Mahomes throw to his less than inspiring receivers, as opposed to just being able to go back to Travis Kelce over and over again. So that kind of worked, where the Eagles basically did the right thing to dare anyone but Travis Kelce to beat them, and they couldn't do that. And that was a good strategy to take. Obviously, again, they got fortune in some ways, but they also made their own luck in some other ways. It was a really good punch out by Bradley Roby on that Travis Kelce fumble. It's, it's a legitimately good play. So ultimately, were the Eagles lucky and fortunate? Yes. Have they been a lot this season? Yes, but they also just win. And it's weird. I'm going long here, but it's weird how they won, because how do the Eagles typically win? They win in the trenches. AJ Brown is awesome. Secondary is not that great. It was the exact opposite. Secondary was awesome. AJ Brown didn't do anything almost. Trenches, they were getting bullied until late in the game, which consistently this year, the Eagles have been incredibly clutch when it comes to their pass rush coming through at the end of the game. Obviously, the Cowboys experienced that, but it's happened multiple other times as well. And that's been a consistent. That part is not luck. Like Josh Sweat coming through at the end to force Patrick Mahomes into that intentional grounding. That's the value of having really, really good edge rushers. And you saw the value of that. And the Eagles are the top team in the NFL. They're 9-1. And even if you want to say, okay, lucky, blah, 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 they're just in such a good spot still at 9-1, with the Lions, 49ers, and Cowboys all winning in week 11. To be able to hold serve with 7 games left to go is a huge deal.
So there's like, people want to call it luck. Like I think there's a lot of, I wouldn't even say Cowboys fans at this point. I think a lot of people are just kind of sick of the Eagles getting away with this, to use the Breaking Bad ism. And some of it is generated luck, like the Sweat thing. I agree with you completely. Some of it is crazy. Like what is this now? 4 straight fumbles that the Eagles have recovered of their own fumbles. There was a 3 in the Dallas game, and then the one in this particular game.
Well, it's even more because Jalen Hurts recovered his own fumble in this game at one point. So
that's what I'm saying. I thought there were 3 against Dallas, and this was the 4th, I thought. So
okay.
Either way,
I thought you were talking about the Kelce fumble too.
It's at least 4 fumbles. No, I'm talking Eagles fumbles that they have recovered.
Covering their own fumbles.
So like 4 straight own fumbles recovered. So like some of that is just the way the ball bounces. Some of it is, I mean, like, I do not want to take away from the shutdown of the Chiefs, but the Chiefs are just cold all of a sudden in the second half. Like they can't score any points. Like it's crazy. The Kelce fumble, I mean, that is not entirely luck. There's a lot of skill involved in that. Yeah. That felt like the true, holy crap, they really are going to get away with this again. The bomb to Devontae to set it up. I mean, like it's annoying how, like, if you look at the 5 most critical moments of the game, the Eagles find a way to, if there's 100 plays, I know that's not true, but just for the math's sake, if there's 100 plays, the Eagles are we don't care about the other 95. As long as we win these 5, it will work out. And they managed to do that week in and week out. And people keep saying it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable. And the logical part of my brain believes that and agrees with that, but it keeps finding a way to be sustainable. Even, obviously we're talking about the Kansas City game, but even coming off the Dallas game where they peed down their leg in the final defensive possession, they got the one moment where they sacked Dak Prescott when Terrence Steele let it go to kind of ruin what was going to be the moment that Dallas took the lead finally. And so I wouldn't bet on this being sustainable, but I can't bet against it either, if that makes sense.
Well, again, they've also bought themselves time if they can figure things out that they're in such a good position. Like it's almost it goes you can go one of either way on it. You can be like, well, it's not sustainable, but you can also be like, well, the Eagles are winning despite not even playing well, and if they can actually hit another year at some point, and it's hard to totally buy into that because we're 10 games into it, but it's not impossible. I think the potential exists for them to, because again, like last night, the things that usually go well didn't, and the things that did. So maybe they can get on the same page at some point. I don't know. I don't know that I fully believe in that, but I do believe in that there is something to this team finds a way. Like I think that kind of is the intangible that Jalen Hurts brings. I mean, I'm sure you saw this statistic floating around. He's like he's won the last 7 games. He's been down by 10 points or whatever. I know their like quarterback has more than 4, some kind of stat like that. Like, but that speaks to who he is in terms of a guy who's not going to get rattled and doesn't let things snowball. And I think the team does take. Here's that actual stat, since I butchered that. This is from Jeff Kerr of CBS. Jalen Hurts has won 7 straight games when trailing by 10 plus points. It's the most by any quarterback in the NFL since it was tracked in 1991. No other quarterback has more than 4 straight of those games. And again, there's some luck in there because of 1-score games and whatnot. But there is also something to a resilience and hey, we made some mistakes, but we're not going to let it snowball. And other quarterbacks and other players do let that happen. Like we make fun of the Chargers all the time for like finding ways to lose because they typically do that. The Eagles are the opposite of that. They find ways. They somehow find ways to win in different ways. They're resilient. They're not easy to beat. You think you have them down, you don't. Incredibly frustrating team to play if you're on the other side.
I mean, I agree with everything you're saying. And I'm fascinated to keep watching this. Like, can Buffalo be the team? Can San Francisco be the team? Like, who is it? Like, it couldn't be Dallas, at least in the first matchup. It couldn't be Kansas City. And so, I mean, how long is the gauntlet? It's what, 5 games, right? Because Buffalo or 6, because it's Buffalo, San Francisco, Dallas, Seattle, right? Remaining.
Yeah. Yes.
So
2
I mean,
home games and then 2 road games.
right. So 2 games out of the way, if you consider it having began with the first Dallas game.
It's also even tougher than it might appear because they play the Bills on short rest this week, coming Monday to Sunday. Then they play the 49ers, who are coming off of playing on Thanksgiving. So the 49ers have a rest advantage in that one, even though
they
the game's
actually
in
get
Philly.
they get the Niners and Cowboys back to back coming off
And
of
again,
Thursday
yeah,
game.
and
Right.
then they play the Cowboys, who are going to be coming off extra rest. So yeah, not really ideal.
Also, this is our portion about the Eagles, but I noticed this on Monday. So they get the Cowboys coming off of where the Cowboys are coming off of a long rest. The week after playing the Niners. I know I was asking stats about this on Monday. I know it doesn't hold the same way as it did last year, but remember there was a point in time where teams were like 0-13 like the week after playing the Niners or whatever it was, because they just got beat up so badly. Dallas gets both Philadelphia and Seattle the week before, coming off of games against San Francisco. So if you put any stock into that, I do think that's a little bit interesting. But back to the Eagles. I mean, like the Justin Jefferson fumble through the end zone, however many weeks ago, the self fumbles that are recovered, the Travis Kelce fumble, like all these things feel like luck. But I do believe that the Eagles are a team that puts themselves in a position to benefit more greatly from luck than the average NFL team. And maybe that luck will run out. I certainly hope it does. But right now it is incredibly maddening. And to your point, the fact that, they've been able to bottle or hold on to this luck, 9 times out of 10 contests so far, has given them room for error, has given them breathing room if it does catch up to them. Obviously, the other side of that coin is like maybe they stabilize and become the team they were last year, but they have a huge lead, relatively speaking, for the number 1 seed, obviously in the NFC East, but it could obviously evaporate like that because it's the NFL. Any other thoughts on the Eagles?
Well, and we'll get to this to the Cowboys part, kind of a transition here, but very interesting Thanksgiving for the Eagles. because all the other top competitors in the
Right.
NFC are playing that day. So it'll be a very interesting day, rooting for at least one. At least you're probably not going to get all three. Obviously, the odds are very much against that. But even if you can just get the Lions, the Cowboys, or the 49ers, at least one of those teams to lose, that would be a really big deal.
You should, while we're kind of having this conversation, pull up DraftKings Sportsbook, who are our friends on the SB Nation NFL show, and just put a parlay, just straight up parlay on the Packers, Commanders, and Seahawks winning. You can take the lines if you want, or take the money line, but I have to imagine those are some really, really long odds. I'm trying to buy you time while you do that. I thought you would be faster at this.
I mean, the app's not loading. With all due
by
respect,
the way, I was not on the SB Nation NFL show last week.
Yeah, I know. It's been so long since I've talked to you because of that.
But you and Steven, so the three of us had our first ever successful same game parlay a few weeks back now, and you and Steven did it again without me. I guess I technically did it too because it was my prop.
You contributed.
Well, I know, but I wasn't on the episode. So we are we're actually riding a 2-week win streak because you did not participate a few weeks ago. Right. Justice filled in for you. We are, on fire. Actually, we're heating up if you play by standard rules, I suppose. But we're one away from being on fire. Do you have the odds finally for this?
If you do the Packers, the Commanders, and the 49ers, you parlay that all together.
No, the Seahawks, not the 49ers.
Sorry. That's what I meant to say. I misspoke, but I did do the right thing here. It would be plus 7,353. So in other words, you could bet $10 to win $745. So yes, of course, not likely to happen. But if you
should do that if you're an Eagles fan, though. Like, right, like throw, have some fun. I mean, throw $10 on it. Yeah.
You could also bet all on the favorites, hoping that you get it wrong and do the emotional hedge. And if you do that, in that case, that's actually minus 104. So you could bet $10 to win $9.62.
Well, that the money there contextualizes how improbable this is. So are you ready to move to the Cowboys? I don't want to jump the gun.
Last thing I'll say is I don't remember if I mentioned this, but the Eagles beating the Chiefs, wasn't the biggest deal in terms of didn't impact the conference record or anything like that. But obviously there's value in just winning another game and giving your opponents less time to catch up and you're, holding serve. But also the sneaky, under the radar thing is that the tiebreaker that could come into play potentially for the Lions and the Eagles when it comes to getting the 1 seed or whatever kind of seeding.
Strength of opponent or whatever.
It's conference record first, but then it goes down to common opponents. The record
right, and the Lions had beaten the Chiefs.
And the Lions had beaten the Chiefs. So for the Eagles to make sure that the Lions don't have that advantage over them, and now the Eagles still have to play the Seahawks, and if they can beat the Seahawks where the Lions lost to them, that could potentially, we don't know for sure if that's going to come into play, but under the radar, valuable win because of that angle.
All right, well said. The Dallas Cowboys. This was interesting. I thought about this. I mean, nobody celebrates injuries, but the arrow was pointing really far up, excuse me, for the Chiefs relative to the last time they played. So before Monday night, the last time we'd seen them was in Germany against the Dolphins. And since then, the Bills collapsed, obviously fired Ken Dorsey. Joe Burrow got hurt, right? The door really swung open for Kansas City, which is why even though they lost on Monday night, I feel like most Chiefs fans are like, well, that sucked, but we're still all right. Even as far as the 1 seed is concerned. And on the opposite end of the spectrum for the Eagles, since they last played, the Cowboys have won 2 games. The Lions have won 2 games. The Niners have won 2 games. It just, it was kind of the inverse. That's why, I did a radio hit in Toronto on Monday night, and they asked me who I thought kind of needed the win more. And it was certainly the Eagles, just again, because of everything that had happened while they were on their bye. So the Cowboys win again. They're now 7-3, kind of a sleepy-ish sort of game in some respects. But our takeaway on that at Blogging the Boys has been, well, it was kind of sleepy and they beat them 33-10, right? It didn't even take their B+ effort and they put away, this team. It was a little bit dicey. Got to a 1 possession game in the third quarter. And then the Cowboys kind of stood up and said, okay, enough of this. And in a flash, it was all of a sudden 30-10.
Yeah, the Cowboys were never in danger of losing that game. I mean, they just absolutely took advantage of a bad Panthers offensive line. And man, it's more of SB Nation NFL show talk here, but I just don't. The Bryce Young thing it just doesn't look like he doesn't look
the whole
like an
vibe.
NFL quarterback. It doesn't. I was watching with my dad on Sunday, and he was like, "What?" He's like, "That's their quarterback." He didn't understand. He was he couldn't. He's like, "This guy is their number 1 overall pick." He didn't get it, And I think there's something to be said for that. Just someone, not like, obviously, to someone who isn't biased in terms of, oh, but he went to Alabama. Oh, he's the number one pick. It's like, maybe it's kind of just the eye test. And it's like, that guy doesn't really pass it. But, obviously the Cowboys, to their credit, as they have all year, they've smashed bad teams, which is what you should do. It's the exact thing I defended the Eagles for doing last year when everyone's like, oh, they had an easy road to the playoffs or to the Super Bowl. And they did. They earned that road, number one, but they also smashed all those teams along the way, unlike anyone else had ever done really before. And you look at historical context. But it is worth mentioning that that happened. It's also worth mentioning that the Cowboys have played the easiest schedule this year by DVOA, and they have the second worst strength of victory this year. So they're doing what you should do in terms of beating bad teams by a ton. But it's also like, my thing with the Cowboys has been often this year, it's like, what are we really learning about the team? Like, we know they can do this, but like, what's the new thing we're learning?
I think post-bye, really not even post-bye, but post-Niners loss, we've learned that Mike McCarthy is a very good play caller. Like, people will always roll their eyes, like he will never get proper credit. But I mean, ever since that Niners loss, the very next game was the Chargers game on Monday Night Football, and Dak was kind of the only thing that powered that offense, and that was the moment that they kind of woke up and started to utilize CeeDee Lamb. Then they had their bye, and they've just been on fire offensively ever since, except for this game. I mean, but it didn't really require, this like massive offensive, showing or whatever. So that is the new thing. Like, oh, like to your point, we haven't learned that the defense can destroy inferior teams. Like, we've known that for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't learned that the special teams can be a factor as well, because we've known that for a long time. The Cowboys are just, excuse me, becoming consistently good. I think like that's another thing that we've learned. We've learned that they are now one of these kind of always having a seat at the table teams. They are 7-3 for the third year in a row. That's been their record through 10 games each of the last 3 years. Mike McCarthy is the second coach in Dallas Cowboys franchise history to win at least 7 of a season's first 10 games 3 different times. He's obviously done it 3 years in a row. The only other head coach in franchise history to do that is Tom Landry, and he did it a billion times. I mean, obviously he was coach for 29 years, but so, I mean, that's it. Like, we have learned that they have made it through. Like, and I'm not, again, saying, I say this all the time, like, I'm not saying throw a parade, hang a banner, but they are no longer the, like, wishy-washy, all or nothing team. They are consistently good. They are going to be a playoff team year in and year out. That's what Mike McCarthy was in Green Bay. And one time it worked out, and they won every single thing that you possibly could, including a playoff win in Philadelphia. And so now that's who they are. And so the true measurement of all things, I mean, and you could say this about the Eagles or at this point, the Bills or the Chiefs or whoever, is like, can you get it done in the playoffs, and can you win the Super Bowl? But the fact that the Cowboys are now seated among them, I believe since 2021 started, I need to double check this, the only teams with more regular season wins, again, regular season, than the Cowboys are the Chiefs and Eagles. I mean, they've surpassed the Niners and the Bills in that time just because of the recent stretches. So that's what we've learned in my mind, which is a significant thing.
Again, we can get it maybe more into it on the SB Nation NFL show or here if you want, but this is not why the Cowboys won. To be clear, they won because they were just clearly outclassing the Panthers. But also, it is true that Frank Reich, not a good head coach, man. The take that he was the secret genius behind the Eagles' success. I mean, the Panthers were, I know they're bad. Like, the talent isn't fully there, but you could just see on Sunday, that was an awfully coached team. How many third down
horrible
stops
penalties
did the Panthers get? And it's a totally unnecessary, stupid penalty that just wiped out a stop. Like, that happened at least 3 times, I feel like I saw. And it shows that's just textbook, not a good, well-coached team.
But that's where, I mean, kind of to the Eagles point we talked about, like, if you put yourself in a position to benefit from luck, and then in a position to capitalize on the luck that goes your way, that is a hallmark of a great team.
Yeah, and the Cowboys weren't making those mistakes by comparison. A much better coach team than Frank Reich's Panthers.
I would offer, so like when it felt, I mean, you know how it is, like every fan base feels like the sky is falling whenever anything like doesn't go their way. So the Panthers made this a 7-point game. Their touchdown drive went 17 plays for 70 yards. That is so difficult to go 70 yards in only 17 plays. They had 3 fourth down conversions on that possession. And that possession was also kept alive by a running into the kicker penalty as well. And so, like, again, I don't want to make this about the Panthers. You're right. We could talk about it on Friday. Actually, we're recording TGI football this week on
True.
Wednesday. But so like people look at like Brandon Staley as an example. They're like, oh, well, your defense isn't even good. Like that's like your thing. So like if your thing isn't even good, like what are you doing here? So Frank Reich, you're supposed to be this like offensive genius. Like you had one possession where you cashed in for a touchdown. And it took like the mightiest might of the Carolina Panthers. Yeah. And some like, luck and weird help and whatever, just for you to get one touchdown. Crazy. But the Cowboys are 7-3. Notable things: Deron Bland tied the NFL record for most pick sixes in a single season with 4. He has 4 touchdown catches this year. That is how many Saquon Barkley has for the Giants, who has the most on the Giants. That is the same that Jahan Dotson has for the Commanders, who has the most for the Commanders. I mean, nobody is like, oh, wow, I'm so surprised that this is happening. But before this game, it was announced that Jimmy Johnson is entering the Dallas Cowboys Ring of Honor.
I wanted to ask your take on that. Yeah.
So like, I mean, Cowboys fans have kind of heard us talk about this, but I would imagine this is at least of interest for other fan bases. About an hour and a half before kickoff. This was this was a noon game also. So it wasn't like a prime time affair or anything. It was just so random. About an hour and a half before kickoff, Jerry Jones announced he's going to have a surprise press conference 20 minutes before the game starts. And he had been seen talking to Jimmy Johnson. Everybody like naturally assumed this, but nobody was willing to believe it because, well, I mean, like, the history kind of speaks for itself. And yeah, all of a sudden, boom, you're going to the Ring of Honor on December 30th, which is a Saturday night game, a Monday Night Football broadcast. So Troy Aikman will be there. The game against the Lions. Really cool. I mean, Jimmy Johnson deserves it. He's in the Hall of Fame. This is a really, really cool thing for the Cowboys to finally do this. This was the one kind of like, holy crap, are you serious thing that has really been hanging over them for a while.
I mean, I don't have much of a take on it. It just seemed obvious to me that it should have happened way sooner, but okay.
I mean, it should have happened like 20 years ago. I mean,
yeah,
but,
it's way overdue, but whatever.
But it will happen. And my take on this, beyond the fact that like it's awesome for Jimmy, and I've said this all over our properties, but like this is really cool for Dallas Cowboys fans. Like I thought about, you mentioned your dad. I thought about my dad. Like I'm so happy my dad gets to see this. Like people who loved those teams and experienced those teams, like they should get to enjoy this moment. Like this is a significant thing for Dallas Cowboys fans of all ages. So kudos to them.
Well, why don't we take a break here?
Throw it to break then. Officially throw it to break.
Let's take a break and we'll be back after a word from our sponsors. Okay, welcome back. We're back here on the NFC East Mixtape. It's Brandon Lee Gowton from Bleeding Green Nation. It's RJ.
Why would it have changed?
The boys.
Why? How would it have changed? Like, why do we need to reintroduce ourselves?
I don't know. Well, you didn't say those websites earlier, did you? At the top, did you say those?
Yeah,
websites?
I did.
Normally at the
That's
top.
my job.
I don't listen to that part. Anyway, the Washington Commanders are bad and lost to the New York Giants.
I wonder. I need to hit him up, but I wonder if Brendan was like, I can't believe I went on a podcast and talked about these dudes. Like
the season that I think you and I could be hoping happens for the Commanders, kind of happening in terms of like, or at least it was, and like, oh, Sam Howell is the guy. He's the guy. Is he really the guy if he can't beat the New York Giants?
I mean, dude. So like, I hate to boil things down to like these simplicities, but like they lost to Tommy DeVito. You know what I mean? Who the week before the Cowboys just trounced. You know what I mean? Like
you were at home. You'd home field advantage.
And then there was the shower thing after, which was really funny. And like, of course, it would happen to them. Dude, this is really bad. Like this is a new low, a new football low. Cause like, and the shower thing, like I saw a lot of people tweet like, oh, we can't blame this on Dan Snyder. Like this isn't even like, I recognize the stench is still there and it takes a while to kind of purge it all away. But like, man, like what is the reason for this? Like I've been out on Ron Rivera for a very long time. So, I'm kind of welcoming everybody to my hill. I sort of own all the property around here. But like, how can you possibly believe in Ron Rivera at this point? Like, I know you're talking about Sam Howell, but like, what does Ron Rivera offer to this football team?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like, maybe they're just going to fire him after they lose to the Cowboys on Thanksgiving, although that's kind of harsh in
I
terms of the timing.
thought Frank Reich might have been fired on Monday
He
after
should
they
have been.
lost.
I don't think they're going to fire him this year, but I mean, he's been terrible. Anyway, yeah, I think that they should just to get a look at Eric Bieniemy as your interim head coach, and then
That was
decide.
Brendan's point. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Like, and that's why I didn't say it to him then, but like he thought I think they might fire Rivera if they lose to the Giants at home, which happened. But you can't do it on a short week, obviously. So to your
Right?
point,
Yeah,
like
that
it might
doesn't.
happen after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you have the extended week at that point. Also, the Commanders haven't had their bye yet. I'm pretty sure. Isn't that correct?
That
When
is
does that come
correct.
up? Is that
They
coming up
have it.
after Thanksgiving?
They have it. They host the Dolphins next Sunday with after
Okay,
the mini bye. So they get the mini bye and then the bye back
then
to
the
back.
bye. Well, yeah, then I think that it'll happen after one of those, or it should at least, because what's left to see out of Ron Rivera? And it's not about like trying to salvage this season, to be clear. Not making a move with the thought that like you need to improve things now. You're making the move with your evaluating your value, and obviously, if you win in the meantime, okay, there's potentially some value in that if you can sneak back into the wild card picture, which isn't impossible because it's not like the Vikings necessarily have a stranglehold on that number 7 spot, and then the teams ahead of them are like the Bucks, the Rams, the Packers, so and the
Right. The
Falcons, who they've
Falcons. Right.
actually
Yeah.
beaten and have a tiebreaker over. So I just think they should do something. It's pretty obvious, but if I'm looking at this from the Eagles side of things, it was a really ideal. If we're talking about both teams now here,
Yeah.
really ideal result because you wanted the Commanders. Well, more importantly, you wanted the Giants to win and help screw up their draft positioning here. And by the way, Giants get the Patriots this week. They might win again. They might win 2 games in a row, and really, and that, especially against the Patriots, who are going to be, vying for that top pick with them. Like this is a must-lose game for the Giants coming up, but they might blow it and win it. We'll see. But anyway, yeah, Commanders aren't that interesting. I don't think it's crazy if you bring back Sam Howell, but you have to have some other kind of plan as well. Like he can't just be like the plan. Like he can be part of the plan. You might want to evaluate him further, especially if he shows some promise down the stretch, especially if him and I guess Eric Bieniemy are really clicking or whatever. But it can't be like Sam Howell and Jacoby Brissett again. It has to be like Sam Howell and then draft another quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of a good example. Like you can't go at this like the way the Steelers do with Kenny Pickett this year. You know what I mean? Like you'd be stuck, like the way the Steelers are with Kenny Pickett this year. You have to be willing to constantly keep improving, which is something they're not really known for. Do you know what the Commanders' best starting field position of the day was?
No.
It was their own 41-yard line.
Hmm.
That was the best starting field position of the game. They ran 3 plays and lost 7 yards. I think though, like because I'm just looking at it on NFL Jesus, I think that was just 3 knees to end the half. But still, like so even then you squandered your best starting field position of the day. On the Giants side of things, I agree with you. I'm happy they won. Do you know what their best starting field position of the day was?
No.
It was the Washington 34-yard line.
Wow.
So I want you to think about this. They started with 34 yards to go. That right there is a 51-yard field goal. They punted. They ran 3 plays and lost 11 yards and punted.
6
Imagine that.
turnovers is crazy. You're -6 in turnover differential to the Giants, who aren't like this amazing team at taking the ball away. Really? Like that's so pathetic. You let
I mean,
Tommy DeVito have 3 touchdowns on you. He had 137.7 passer rating. Like that defense. We talk about Ron Rivera here a lot, who is, has a defensive background. Obviously, Jack Del Rio is going to be a candidate to go. And look, the Commanders made their defense worse on purpose, so that doesn't help matters. But still, it's Tommy DeVito here we're talking about. That's pretty pathetic.
Saquon kind of nice in this game. Like
But what's the
really
point?
well. This is maybe
What are you
more
going to
of
do? Resign him? I
no,
think
no,
that'd be
no.
a
But like
mistake.
this is more of an NFL show conversation now. But like, I'm really interested to see where Saquon winds up in free agency.
If you're the Giants, you better hope it's not you're resigning him.
No,
Unless
that's what I'm
it's like
saying.
a
Like
1-year deal.
Saquon can help a team. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's not like the old washed running back yet. You know what I mean? Like he can help a team. So like you put Saquon, I don't know, on the Bills. I'd be interested in watching that. Don't do that. A lot of people, I guarantee, will be like the
That's
Cowboys
not
should sign
crazy.
Saquon. No,
That's
it's not, or the
insane.
Cowboys either. Like, you know what I mean? But like that's what I'm saying. Like and Saquon's going to be like so hungry to go to like a good team. You know what I mean at this point. But
I
like,
mean, he's a loser if he resigns with the Giants. He is. Like, come on, you got to get out of there.
Also, do you realize that Kayvon Thibodeau has 10.5 sacks this year?
I did see that on Big Blue View. I have not watched him play specifically a lot, so I kind of like. I wonder just how legit those sacks are. That's a nice number, obviously, very good. I'm just saying, like,
But they do
I've
kind of feel
seen.
like empty calories. To your
Yeah,
point.
I've seen
Yeah.
players on bad teams. I'm specifically. I'm not saying he's the same player, but Jason Babin once upon a time on the Eagles had like 18 sacks in a season where they were terrible, not actually any good, and basically, he was just sack hunting. Like, he wasn't even trying to defend the run at any point. Like, he was just hunting for sacks. So a lot of those sacks on a bad team like makes me wonder a little bit, but I mean, certainly it's encouraging to see. It's not a bad thing. I don't know personally how legit those are.
Do you know where the Giants rank in overall DVOA at FTN Fantasy?
Like overall, meaning like offense, defense, everything.
Yeah, like overall. That's
I
what
don't
the word
know.
overall means.
No,
32.
they're
They
pretty
rank
bad.
they rank 32nd offensively. The Commanders rank 25th and rank 22nd offensively. They rank 30th defensively. Again, what is Ron Rivera's like specialty? You know what I mean? Like what's supposed to be the thing you're good at? What do you like? And similarly with Brian Dable, like I don't know. I mean, we've been saying this like this isn't anything new, but like I don't know if you're the Giants why you have to bring Brian Dable back. Like sunk cost fallacy. Like you cannot be like, oh, you want coach of the year in 2022. Like you want a playoff game. Like no,
It's not even
like,
that. I think the worst thinking, that would be better reason to me than it would be to say we just can't change it because it's been another thing with 2 years.
that's also I
That's the
agree. That's
worst
also
logic possible.
yeah.
If you believe in him because he did those good things in the past, I think that's misguided. I agree with you, but at least that's something to point to. But you can't just point to, well, we can't do it because that's the worst reasoning to not do it. But they're going to do that. They're not going to change anything. I think. What's the Giants' remaining schedule here? I know they still
They
have.
have the
So
Patriots
they could
and
win. They
then
could win like 2 in a row. They host the Patriots and the Giants coming up.
no, you're talking about the command. We're talking about the Giants. They can't
That's what
post
I'm
the
saying.
Giants. They are the Giants.
Sorry, I meant to say the
The
Patriots and the
Packers.
Packers. Yeah, they host the
Eh,
Patriots and the Packers. That's their next 2 games.
That Packers game is on Monday Night Football, by the way. Although I don't know if you saw this on Monday. We are now eligible for Monday night games to be flexed. Like we're at that point of the season. So while the Giants have the massive New York market, I don't know. They also have yet to have their bye week, by the way. The Giants. So
They also still play the Rams. Like I think the Giants are winning at least one more game, and
they also
potentially
still play the Saints. Like that's not crazy. I mean,
it's in New Orleans. Yeah. I think they win at least 2 of Patriots, Packers, Saints on the road, and then because the Patriots, Packers, and Rams games are all at home for whatever that's worth, and then the Saints game is on the road. I think they win at least 2 of those, which is bad. You don't want to. The Giants, they're best served to get the highest possible pick. Maybe they can get I don't know, pick 7 and trade up still or whatever, but then you're giving up assets. So I still think it's ideal for them to lose. I will be rooting for them to win as long as it's not against the Eagles.
Last thing before we spin forward, I just saw a retweet from Big Blue View. Our buddy Ed Valentine was on a podcast and was asked, I don't know what he said, but who's in better shape quarterback wise, the Jets or the Giants?
I guess the Giants because they have a better chance at getting a higher pick than the Jets do right now.
That's an interesting spin. I think a lot of people would have said the Jets because Aaron Rodgers could come back next year. I mean, so
true. I didn't think of that, but I guess I mean, it's too. I don't know. I don't know. What if he's just never healthy again? Like I don't know what his injury outlook is. I didn't think about that, but also don't love the vibes there anyway. I think Jets have the higher floor. I think the Giants might have the higher ceiling.
Dude, the Jets also, I mean, again, we've got a lot of NFL show takes here today. Like, I'm so out and I've been out on Robert Saleh. Like, I mean, what is that dude offering? I mean, like, okay, the defense is good, but like
the front office, I'm not trying to absolve him, but the front office did like fail him. I mean, it's funny to me that a lot of people are like, why does he want to stick with Zach Wilson? Who else is he going to play? I'm not saying like Zach Wilson should be in there still, but like, what is the legitimate other option?
I don't
Trevor
know that,
Siemian,
like,
okay.
I mean,
Tim Boyle.
I think that the frustration is that they didn't make any moves. I mean,
I agree, but I've
and like,
seen articles, including on SBNation.com, not trying to rip on our own here, but I've seen like Robert Saleh's commitment to Zach Wilson is going to get him fired. It's like, it's not like a
well,
commitment from him.
I mean, it's a little bit of commitment. He's not blameless, but I get your point. Okay, are you ready to spin forward to week 12?
Yes, it's a very big week in the NFC, not just the NFC East, but in the NFC as a whole here.
You mentioned it. 6 NFC teams playing on Thanksgiving Day, and then
That's
the
wild.
aforementioned.
That's kind of sucks for AFC fans.
Yeah, and
Like
then
not even one game.
no,
Not
it's
even.
all
No, I
6
know.
teams.
I know what you're saying. I'm just saying it feels like you have to throw a bone to AFC fans and at least put like one AFC team on a holiday like that.
Well, last year the Bills were in Detroit, and the Cowboys hosted the Giants. I don't remember the night game last year. Do you, off the top of
No,
your head? Yeah, I want to say.
I don't think it was memorable. Clearly,
Yeah, but Thanksgiving is a fun time for RJ and Brandon because the first kind of original project we ever did was Friday Football Friday
that's
in
right.
2020 after the Cowboys lost to the Commanders last time
Mhm.
they played them on Thanksgiving Day, I think. Yeah. Anyway,
Yes,
so going in chronological order here, the Cowboys do host the Commanders on Thanksgiving Day. Did you know, or do you know, who the halftime performer is for the game?
I saw a tweet about this and then I totally just forgot.
Dolly Parton. So I know you are very excited. The Cowboys are 11-point favorites. It is the third week in a row in which they are double-digit point favorites.
It was
They are
Patriots
also.
Vikings last year, by the way, at night.
Oh, that's right. That crazy Vikings win. That was awesome. But the Cowboys have covered their last
Yes.
2 big spreads. They have won 12 games in a row at home. We've
Uh-huh.
mentioned this. They take care of the bad teams.
Mhm.
They generally also win divisional contests. I know they lost the Eagles game. But so all those things kind of point in the direction of this being a comfortable Cowboys win that gets them to 8-3.
I mean, I just don't see how the Commanders' offensive line is going to hold up against the Cowboys' pass rush. I do think, just based on how Sam Howell was randomly frisky against the Eagles, and he was against the Cowboys late last year, maybe he gets on a heater. But even if that does happen, which I don't count on, I just don't see how their awful defense is going to slow down the Cowboys because the Commanders can't defend Tommy DeVito right now. So I'm certainly not counting on them to defend the Cowboys offense. So yeah, this is an easy. This is, I don't know if we're gonna do lock of the week. Are we including the Thursday games in that? I don't know, but if we are, like, I'm considering that for my pick here.
Given that you love to lock the Cowboys, by the way, but given that
I mean,
we're
they've
recording.
they've covered the spread.
I know, but given that we're recording on Wednesday and it's going out on Friday, I would assume that Thursday games are not eligible to be locked by us. But anyway, but you can say it here. You're taking the Cowboys and laying 11 points.
Yeah, I will be betting money, probably a lot of money on the Cowboys money line because it's a safe bet.
Yeah, I will too, but it's a short week. It's Thanksgiving. You know, a lot of people, I don't put as much stock into this as a lot of Cowboys fans, but a lot of people believe, like, oh, anytime anybody plays the Cowboys, like, they give their best shot, blah, blah, blah. Do you know, by the way, this is the Cowboys' 11th game? It's the 10th time this season they will have had a #1 network broadcast crew. So I mean, America's team and all that jazz. But it
How
is
is that?
Thanksgiving.
You're gonna hang a banner for that?
It is a bigger state. This will be the most watched game of the year outside of the Super Bowl. Like, there's no question about that.
Okay.
And so
Well, I hope the Cowboys lose.
it's, well, I mean, it's a big stage, and they've lost this game before. I mean, you know what I mean? They lost to a bad Raiders team 2 years ago. Because sometimes, it has a big game vibe. The halftime show is longer, you know what I mean, than a normal
Mhm.
halftime. But still, I will bet on the fundamental footballness of the Cowboys that we've seen. So I will take them to get to 8-3. And then obviously root like crazy for the Bills on Sunday. So
Mhm.
the Eagles and Bills play, let me make sure, Sunday afternoon. Is that
Well, are you
correct?
going in chronological order? 'Cause don't the Giants play before?
That's what I'm saying, because I was double checking that the Eagles play in the afternoon. Yes, it is an afternoon. I was double
Yeah,
checking so I could
Bills
say
Eagles is at 4:25.
right. So I was double checking, like I said, so
Another
I could
Kelly
come
Green game.
um against the Bills. I don't love that. I didn't like. Why are the 2 Kelly Green games AFC teams
I
this year?
agree. That was
Like,
not a good
yeah,
idea
like,
to me.
you got to do this against it doesn't even have to be a division rival, but and I don't think the Eagles played the
Should
Bears
be.
this year, but like it should be against like the Bears or you know what I mean, or like a classic NFC OG NFL team. So yeah, miss me with this.
They
But
still
anyway,
could because they've only done it twice. I think they can wear it up to 3 times. They announced 2. I'm guessing they might break
so
another one
we
out for the Giants, but we'll see.
so this week we get Cowboys throwbacks, obviously on Thanksgiving, and then Eagles Kelly Green. So it's a throwback week on the NFC East Mixtape, which means we should maybe have some throwback songs. Who knows? Bit of a spoiler. Anyway, but chronologically, the New York Giants will host the Patriots before then. We agree the Patriots are like all-time bad, right? Like we agree with this.
Yes.
Okay. That being said, they are on the road and they are 3.5-point favorites over the Giants. That is crazy. Like that
Yep.
is a slap. It's not even a slap in the face, like because a slap in the face implies like it's wrong or it's unfair or something. I mean, it's rational and it's reasonable, but like, man, that is a real indication of where the Giants are at. And I think I'm going to take the Patriots. Like I can't. They're so bad, but I just can't. I can't talk myself into taking the Giants. I can't.
I mean, when you consider that the Giants had or were +6 in turnover differential, and they still only won by 12 points. Like that's not a lot to have. Like give a lot of teams a +6 in the turnover differential. They're going to win a lot more than by 12 points there. So that does speak to that. The Patriots have been like not good, obviously, but they've been mildly competitive. Here are their last 5 games. Okay, so they lost to the Raiders by 4. There was a bad beat in that game at the end, I believe, right? That's because you actually took one of those teams. They beat the Bills at home. They lost by 2 scores to the Dolphins. They only lost by 3 to the Commanders, and then they lost by 4 to the Colts. So like they haven't been getting stomped. Like the Giants have been getting stomped at least at points along the way. So I get why the Patriots are favored in the standpoint that they haven't been as lifeless as the Giants have been. That being said, I think there could be something to the Giants getting a little taste of winning and believing in themselves, and they're at home.
Man,
And
you're
the
just trying to
Patriots,
manifest at this point.
I
Also,
mean, I
this
would
could
love
be
to
a
see it.
Bailey Zappi game, like for what it's worth. I don't know
Could
if that
be.
changes your opinion.
I don't really. That doesn't change a whole lot for me either way. I'm going to say the Giants win. They have to impress their new head coach, Bill Belichick.
By the way, on the subject of head coaches, so okay, we differ here. I just saw this like right now in real time. Mike McCarthy's at the podium. Obviously, quick week for the Cowboys. He said, "So you strike me as somebody, Brandon, who loves sleep. Is that fair?"
Yeah. I mean, I
So
don't get it enough of it, but I do like it.
Mike McCarthy's line that he said in his Tuesday press conference was, "I used to think sleep was for the weak." What a dumbass statement that was. I feel that because I used to be like, "Oh, I don't need sleep. I'll just power through it." That was so dumb. I can't believe I ever thought that way. So, yeah.
Okay.
All right. I thought that was funny. I thought that would make you giggle. We have an identical line, at least as of Tuesday at lunchtime, in the Eagles Bills game, except the other way around. The Eagles are laying 3.5 points at home, so just a hair more than your kind of classic, tried and true 3-point home field advantage. Last time the Eagles were at home, they were 3-point favorites right over the Cowboys. That's correct.
Yeah.
At least that's what it was for most of the week.
Yes.
So, interesting. I really don't know what to do here. I don't know if you want to go first or want me to go first. I'm torn.
It's 3.5, right? Eagles are
Correct.
3.5. I'm gonna say the Bills cover. It's a 3-point game, but the Eagles. Look. I'm done betting. I actually picked the Chiefs. Or sorry, I picked the Eagles to win against the Chiefs. But I can't. How can I? They probably should lose. They probably will lose in some ways. But it's just like, how could I be wrong and then be like, oh, I bet against the Eagles who just continue to win somehow.
Well, it
I'm just
depends
gonna
what you're
keep.
betting. I mean, like what was the line on Monday night?
It fluctuated, and this is what made me feel better about the Eagles. It fluctuated between 2.5 and 3 throughout the week. I thought that was a little interesting. The fact that it was like 2.5, and the fact that it didn't go to like Chiefs 3.5 or something. I thought that was a little bit telling that the Eagles had a better chance than some people seem to think they had, depending on who you ask. But I'm going to take the Bills to cover here. Bills are like, I know you have your issue with the Bills, and I know they've been disappointing in a lot of ways, and I think the big issue with them is that they beat themselves. They are quite capable of doing that. But if you like a point differential and DVOA, they're still
Oh,
I think
dude,
they're
yeah, like
still like
they're up there. It's very they're like the
not a bad
inverse.
team.
They're the inverse of the Eagles. I feel like, you know what I mean, like where the Eagles are doing these things that like I tweeted about the Eagles on Tuesday. And I didn't mean it disrespectfully, although I wish I did. But like I think the Eagles are a flawed team. Like they play like a very flawed team, but
Every
they
team
win.
is a flawed team. There's not a
Right.
flawed team.
But like their flaws feel so like in your face and obvious, but they like find ways to win. Whereas the Bills, if you look at like any kind of advanced, data, like they're a lot less fallible than the Eagles, but they keep losing. Like, you know what I mean? This is like Jekyll and Hyde meeting for like who is actually a fraud, but who's not a fraud. Like it's not a fraud bowl, but it's sort of a fraud bowl. It's very strange.
Yeah. I'll take the Eagles to win. Bills cover. Obviously, again, not like the most important game. It does matter. Every game matters, but like because it's the AFC game. Like if the Eagles lose this game and then they beat the 49ers and Cowboys, I mean, yeah, sign me up. I'll sign up for that all day. But I will take the Eagles to win because why not?
I agree
That's
with
all
you
they do.
that it's not consequential, but if the Lions and Cowboys take care of business on Thanksgiving, and put some more pressure on the Eagles, like it becomes what it looked like it was going to be at halftime on Monday night, right? And I think you correct me if I'm wrong. I think you are probably. I know you hate the Niners and blah blah blah, but like I think it makes more sense to be afraid of the Niners than the Bills. Is that fair to say? So like it would feel like a slippery slope entering next week. If you gave some cushion away to head into a game against the 49ers, I think. But obviously it's easy to say right now. We have no idea how the game's going to go. By the way, we'll go ahead real quick.
Why don't we also kind of quickly predict what's going to happen elsewhere in the NFC, since that is relevant? Do you think the Lions are going to take care of business against the Packers?
For what it's worth, since we like to discuss things from a Lions perspective, they are 7.5-point favorites against the Packers.
I mean, I think they're going to take care of the Packers.
Yeah, me too. The Lions are also flawed, like everyone.
They should have lost.
But offensively, they're just too much for Green Bay to handle right now. Like I can't. By the way, did you see The Athletic did like an NFL player survey?
I didn't fully read through that yet, but I saw that they did that.
Yeah, I just looked at the graphics, and there was one that was like, who's the best player in the NFL? And I think Patrick Mahomes like ran away with it, but like there were other like nominees, and Jared Goff was there. And it's like, okay, we could respect Jared Goff without going.
Who's saying that?
I mean, I'm just saying, like I saw his name. You'll see it yourself. He was on there. But so we think the Lions take care of business. We think the Cowboys take care of business. And the 49ers.
I think the 49ers beat the Seahawks. Yes.
Yeah. So you think it's a poor Thanksgiving from an Eagles fan perspective.
Although I think they make up for it on Sunday and then they kind of hold serve again.
That'd be interesting. There'd be a lot of, there'd be the power of 3 fan bases rooting against the Eagles. 4, I guess, if you count the Bills. I'm curious to hear what Jay Spence thinks about them. I'm sure he'll make his way onto BGN Radio this week. Also, while we're kind of like dancing around and looking at different things, DraftKings does have odds available right now. It's really early, obviously, for the Week 13 games involved here. Now, I wrote about this last week. Now, this has changed too, to be fair. But as of last week's NFC standings, all 6 of the 7 playoff teams, again, this was a week ago, play one another in Week 13. The Vikings are on bye, so they don't, obviously. But the Lions play the Saints, the Niners play the Eagles, and the Cowboys play the Seahawks. So we're about to see like some serious, I wouldn't say fork
separation
in the road,
or
whatever. Yeah, exactly.
The opposite of that.
But as far as those lines are concerned, Dallas is currently, again, this is Tuesday the 21st. They're 6-point favorites at home against the Seahawks on Thursday Night Football next week. I think we'd probably both take Dallas right now. Is that fair?
Yeah, Seahawks are not trending in a great way, but also, hey, if they beat the 49ers, then I might feel differently.
This line is interesting to me. The Lions are only 3-point favorites against the Saints. Granted, it's in the Superdome, but still, I would have thought that would have been larger.
Yeah, that tells you that the Lions are not as good as the record indicates if they're not getting that much respect.
And we'll see if these lines will probably change, at least minimally. But for the first time, I don't know in how long, the Eagles will not be or might not be 3-point home favorites at the very least. They are currently 1.5-point home favorites against the Niners next week. So Vegas thinks that the Niners are a better team on a neutral field.
All right.
Wow. Okay. It's going to be an interesting couple of weeks. It's a fun time. Like this is a fun time of year, Thanksgiving and everything like that. So we have to do the like obligatory sports radio podcast thing where it's like, let's rank the Thanksgiving foods or whatever. So I know you famously don't like Thanksgiving food. Is this a Wawa scene this week for you?
No, I'm gonna have traditional Thanksgiving food with my parents on Thursday. Prior to that, we'll be doing a Friendsgiving get together on Wednesday with longtime loyal listeners Holden and Elizabeth.
I don't like
Just
Holden. Holden's
that's
on my
kind of like
list.
you love Holden. It's kind of like that's more like a potluck situation. Like everyone bring something.
What are you taking?
So I'm bringing I think it's my grandma's recipe, but my mom has made it for years now. Cheesy hash brown casserole. It's fantastic.
Oh, respect. Okay.
It's great. You can't. It's never not a crowd pleaser at a party. Like no one's ever like not. That's always gone. Like instant. It's just gone. Like yeah, you better get it while it's there because it's not gonna last.
Right on. I don't think we've spoken since I did this. I smoked a practice turkey on the pellet grill. Went well enough to where I feel confident doing it this week. So Thursday's a big day for me because I'm smoking the turkey, managing the Cowboys game, et cetera, et cetera. But very excited for that. Stuffing obviously is great. Sweet potatoes, mac and cheese. I'm all about it all. I have lamented about this a few times. You've probably heard it more than anybody else. But my son was born 2 years ago, the night before Thanksgiving. So my wife and I were, well, she was in the hospital. I was just existing. But on Thanksgiving, and she got, granted, it was a hospital meal, but she got Thanksgiving. I had Burger King on Thanksgiving 2 years ago. And I was very excited for Thanksgiving last year because I was like, okay, like I've been waiting, at the time, 2 years for this because I didn't really get my fill in 2021. But my son's first birthday was on Thanksgiving last year.
True.
So, I mean, it was just this, and the Cowboys were playing, like it's this hectic thing. So this year, his birthday's on Friday. We had the party last week. It was awesome. Super excited to celebrate with him, obviously, on Friday. But Thursday's just about Thanksgiving and the Cowboys. I am pumped.
Okay. Exciting. We should get to our songs.
Wow. I thought that would be, more fun. Anything else you want to offer before songs?
I do have one thing that I've been
No.
thinking about a
Oh,
lot.
no. Oh, geez. Oh, gosh. What?
I think it's funny how we're like, people will say, it'll be very interesting to see. It's not interesting when you're saying it's interesting to see, or like this going to be very interesting. No, it's not. It's not going to be. It's one of the least interesting things you can say is it's going to be interesting. That's not an interesting thing to say.
It's a bit reductive. I agree with that. Like,
It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Like, yeah, I know, right? But that's not interesting to say. It's funny.
I would put that
in
the same box as like, I don't like the have your cake and eat it too thing. I've explained it before. I also don't like when people will be like, he's not getting any younger. Who is? Point me to the person, or when people be like, when people refer to a moment and say, well, it's a fleeting moment. They are all literally fleeting at the exact same pace. Like no moment is fleeting faster than any other. So, Brandon, why don't you actually? Well, Rachel got her song in first, as she always does. Let me see. Let me pull it up. She said, my song is Lovin' on Me by Jack Harlow just because I like that song right now. LOL. I like the simplicity that Rachel's going for.
I mean, yeah, as we usually tell our guests, it's not like you have to pick a song for a certain reason, just any song you want to add. I am going to go thematic for this one. And I know the spooky season is over, but I think it's still appropriate that I add the Halloween theme from the Michael Myers movies to the playlist, because that's like what the Eagles are, man. They are like Michael Myers. You hear that music, it's like, what are you talking about? He's still alive. We like shot him 50 times and we lit him on fire and we buried him, and it's just like, nope, just keeps coming back, keeps doing his thing.
I totally disagree with this analogy, because the Eagles are not a team that people do that to. The Eagles are the bad guy that like people.
But they've trailed though. That's the thing. Like they've been in the spot that's not ideal, and they just somehow find a way to do what they want anyway.
But what I'm saying is, like, in a scary movie, you would say to like the person running away that's being chased, you would say like, yeah, like chop their head off, like set them on fire. But people aren't doing that to the Eagles. They like knock them on the head with the bat and then like leave the bat on the ground and
that's
just
like Michael
walk
Myers
away.
though. That's like what people do to him. And it's not from my perspective. Obviously, I enjoy when the Eagles win, but for everyone else, I have to feel like the Eagles are Michael Myers. It's just like, what the heck? They were down 10 to the Chiefs and they still didn't lose. Like, this is so annoying.
Fine. Okay.
It's my pick. You can't like.
No, I'm not.
My pick.
I'm not saying you can't add the song. I'm just saying like I think that it's a different perspective. But okay. My song is one of my favorite songs from one of my favorite movies, and it's one of those songs that like is by a great band. but people only associate with a movie. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know how there's a song that, like, even though it's a great song in and of itself, and the band is like, you know, known for a lot of things, like people still kind of like, you know, they just marry the song to the movie. I'm gonna go with the song "Accidentally in Love" by Counting Crows. Do you know what movie it's
Shrek.
in? Shrek 2, to be specific.
I mean, that's the Shrek franchise is what I was going for. Yes.
I mean, it's Shrek 2. I mean, let's be
I
straight
didn't
up
say
about it.
Shrek 1. I just said Shrek.
You said Shrek. That's the name of the first Shrek
It's
movie.
also the
It's
name of
just
the
Shrek.
franchise.
It's nobody's ever said with the words the Shrek franchise.
The
Nobody
Shrek,
says that.
the Shrekiverse.
That feels like a good note to end it on. Brandon, as we leave, you are going to impersonate Shrek saying that the Eagles won. So go ahead.
I don't know if I should do that. Is that like, is that okay to do? Is that not like, I don't want to appropriate anyone's culture here and
Well, I don't know.
make
I
a
mean,
mockery of it.
okay, fine. You're going to tell us because Shrek is green, your 5 favorite things that are green, but you can't pick Shrek or the Eagles.
Wow. My 5 favorite things that are green. Number 1, mint chocolate chip ice cream. Number 2, I love like a good tomatillo sauce, you know, like on
Okay.
like some
It's a
enchiladas or
strong list so
whatever.
far. Okay.
Great. Number 3, it's in a similar vein, and I'm just trying to do this rapid fire, so I'm not really thinking about it. Number 3 is the Tabasco hot sauce that's green. That one's not as
Good
spicy,
call.
but it's a
That's it.
really good flavor.
Is that like
You
Chipotle? Yeah. Yeah.
the first time I ever had that, I put it like on some empanadas. It's so good, dude. It's such a good pairing.
Okay.
And again, if you're someone who can't like handle the heat, it's a good one to go with. A lot of flavor there. Number 4, I'm gonna go with Baby Yoda because Baby Yoda is green, and I also have it literally right here with me. So that's what's just popped into my mind. And number 5,
Can I give you number 5? Help you out
okay,
because
I'll
you've
defer you to I'll let you have number 5.
I don't eat it, but my whole family loves it. My mom makes like a pistachio,
Oh,
like gelatiny, creamy, whipped cream sort of texture.
what?
Well, it's like a jello-y kind of texture that people eat with spoons. It's not my thing, but you know what I mean. People like it, but it's green as well.
Hmm. All right.